The status bar is where you control most of your drafting settings while you're working in an AutoCAD drawing. So we're still in the interface.dwg file, and you'll find your status bar down here, bottom right of the screen there. And you can see there's various icons that are blue and various icons that are grey. Anything that is highlighted blue is on. So any of those drafting settings that are blue are on. So you'll notice at the moment that my snapped drawing grid is on, my polar tracking's on, my object snap tracking's on, my object snaps are on, and also my annotation objects are showing as always on. Now, one of the things you'll notice when you use more recent versions of AutoCAD is if I start typing a command, you'll see it appears next to the crosshair on the screen. So there's the suggestion menu for what I've typed in, which is line. That is known as dynamic input. Now, in newer versions of AutoCAD, your dynamic input is always on by default. I'll just hit escape there to cancel the suggestion menu. But you cannot control your dynamic input settings because it's not actually showing on the status bar. Now, if you want a setting to show on the status bar and it's not there, you go to these three little lines in the corner, customization. Click on it and you'll see a great big long menu appear on the right hand side of the screen. Now I'm going to switch on my coordinates like so. You'll see a tick appear next to it when I click on it, and there's dynamic input. I'll also click on dynamic input. There's the little tick that appears next to it. I then go back down here to the little three lines, click on it again to close the menu. So you'll notice now I've got my coordinates here. There's my coordinates there. And coming further along, there's my dynamic input, which by default is always on. But more importantly, I can now right click on that icon and go to my dynamic input settings. That will open my drafting settings dialog box. And this is where I can set up all of the settings for all of my drafting settings. So snap and grid, there's all the settings, and it controls these two icons here. If I go to polar tracking, there's all the settings, there's my polar tracking there. Object snap, there's the snaps that are switched off and on, and there's my object snaps there. Now, you can utilize the drafting settings dialog box for these, which comes up with a right click on an icon on the status bar, or you'll find some of the settings now, you can just simply click on the flyout arrow and there's my object snaps. So I can switch on my midpoint snap like that, click on the arrow again, and I'm back into my drawing like so. I can also control my polar tracking angles. If I click there, I can switch on what polar tracking I want. Do I want increments of 90 degrees? Do I want increments of 45 degrees, for example? So you can see how the status bar is fundamental to your work in AutoCAD. It's all of your drafting settings. It's all of those little tools that you need off and on at any given time to create drawings effectively in AutoCAD while you work.